And
I think that's you giving him too much credit that he would put thought into that. I genuinely think it's hubris and entitlement from him. I don't think for a minute he's that organised to go, I tell you what.
I don't know.
And there's no way that man knows where his passport or driving licence is. There is no way he knows where that is.
Boris Johnson forgot his voter ID. He went along to vote. He shambled along to the polling station of South Oxfordshire, and he was sent away, I suppose, on the basis that he could have been Michael Fabricant in a high wind or the Honey Monster. Susie, is it a surprise that the man who passed the law introducing voter ID also forgot that a law he had passed introducing voter ID applied to him as well as other people when this man is Boris Johnson?
No,
I appreciate that may have been a leading question.
This is a man who forgot that you can't have social gatherings inside and had social gatherings inside. So, no, it's not a surprise at all. But also, I think the actual hubris and arrogance of, I don't need voter ID because I'm Boris Johnson. And there's no way that you would mistake me for someone else. So I don't need to bother with the rest of the rules. It's the continual hubris and entitlement that we have seen and has now been quite widely documented that Boris has, and he's had it his whole entire life, from when he was at Eton to when he was Prime Minister to now a former Prime Minister. He just carries that hubris and entitlement, but I'm Boris Johnson, so I'm special.
Do you think he does that? We were talking about this before we came on. Do you think he does this stuff on purpose? Do you think he thought this'll annoy people? This'll get me in the papers. I'll wander down in my shorts and shirt. And
I think that's you giving him too much credit that he would put thought into that. I genuinely think it's hubris and entitlement from him. I don't think for a minute he's that organised to go, I tell you what.
I don't know.
And there's no way that man knows where his passport or driving licence is. There is no way he knows where that is.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe Carrie was out and he had nobody to ask. Tom, what do you think about voter ID generally? It's deeply sort of controversial on a kind of, in a sort of mathsy, sciencey sort of way. Is it a thing that is worth doing, or is it a sort of a fake problem with a bogus solution?
Well, I don't think anyone's ever come up with some, plenty of really egregious occasions when this has been necessary. It certainly has the air of a sort of solution looking for a problem. Obviously, maybe it's been worthwhile simply for this moment of delicious irony. I do feel on Boris Johnson, this almost makes me start to feel affectionate towards him again. I always felt that the man needed a national role. That national role needed to be without power, but as some sort of national jester, bringing gaiety. And I think the Mayor of London was almost that position. And I don't know what against my better judgment, I can sort of imagine the scene of him saying, "Oh, cripes, oh dear," and running his hand through his hair, and then sort of thinking, oh no, what are they going to think of this? And then I think, oh no, I've fallen for him. He might yet have a comeback. Don't give him power. Do give him a national position.
Let's move on and cover the local elections, or at least local to me and Tom. Susie's going to have to talk about foreign elections, as we might if they had happened in France or Afghanistan. They've obviously dominated the news for the past couple of days, and yet, given basically everything we've learned, I do find myself slightly wondering if we will have at this stage even 4 minutes worth of stuff to say about them. But let's have a crack. Labour has done well in the local elections, but not that well. The Conservatives have done badly, but not badly enough for Rishi Sunak to be in much more trouble than he already was. There may be some drama looming in London, but we don't yet know. And we've also learned that the Tory mayor of Tees Valley, Ben Hoochin, apparently exists. Tom, any other big picture impressions from the local elections for you?
I have a small picture impression, which is actually, I feel quite sorry for the Tories, and I realise this is the wrong thing to say. I turned up I was very proud to do my duty. I turned up at 9:45 p.m. and just got on in time. And then I went in, I thought, I'm doing the right democratic thing. I've got the kids to bed. I've done my day's work, and I've just made it. And I went into the booth and I voted, and I thought, I haven't done my duty. I haven't got the slightest clue who I should vote for my crime commissioner, who I should vote for my councillor. So obviously I did it on my impression of national elections, and we're all treating this as a national referendum, and of course it is. but we should be voting on who's the best crime commissioner, who's the best at sorting out your local issues. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of very decent councillors who are losing their seats entirely tossed on the waves of national politics. And I think I don't realise the wrong note for a country that's extremely cross and wants to give a bloody nose to the Tories. But I do think there's probably some quite decent people who've, through people like me just not knowing who the hell to vote for, finding themselves out.
But isn't that their own fault for running under sort of a party ticket at all? Like, if everyone stood as an independent, we'd have to do our homework, or we'd just be lazy and vote for the person who didn't.
But that's even worse yet. I saw one of the crime commissioners their logo was more police in the Thames Valley. And I thought, well, that's great, but I honestly have no idea whether you're also a racist. So I'm going to go for the one that's had a minimum amount of vetting.
Well, I mean, I went into the booth to cast my vote for London Mayor this week, and I knew pretty much how I wanted to vote. But then I looked at the ballot paper and I thought, well, who do I actually know on this list? It's like, well, I've met Sadiq Khan. He seemed all right. I've also met Lord Buckethead, because he comes on the show and he's a smart guy. Maybe the responsible thing here is to vote for Lord Buckethead. And I'm like, hang on, this is not how democracy works. I don't know. Susie, how does it all look from afar? Our elections in our little country down here.
It looks like, Labour still got work to do. Tories on the way out. I did laugh at, who was it, Ben Hitchin, that didn't wear his rosette?
Yes.
Who was the one? Yeah, he didn't wear his rosette.
He apparently forgot, yes.
Yeah, I forgot my rosette on one of the most important nights of my career. So I think it's quite interesting, because what I have learned and subsequently learned over the past few days is that some of these Tory mayors have really kind of looked after their city, not looked after the party, which, as we all know, is quite unusual for a Tory to put a city or a country before their party. But I thought it was very interesting in that the people who voted for them, there was some vox pops things going on, and people were saying, I feel as if he really looks after what we do. And I thought, well, do you know, that actually no longer kind of aligns itself with national party politics. That's people taking an interest in what they want their city to be like, and that's a great thing. And that's real kind of devolved power down to the people. But like you said, it's turnout was low.
Yeah,
really
turnout was very. Yeah, I mean, we don't know for sure, but it seems like turnout's going to have been pretty low across the board.
And you can understand that, Hugo, because everyone is just like, what is the point?
Well, I mean,
there's no alternative.
So your thing about the the various Tory mayoral and other candidates sort of running as if they weren't quite part of the party. Matthew Paris is very interesting on this in the paper today, actually, and he sort of reminds you that there is sort of far away from what the Conservative Party has done at national level in recent years. Is that there is this sort of bedrock of this kind of sort of older conservatism that is business friendly, that is locally facing, that is kind of almost not exactly anti-Westminster, but doesn't prioritise Westminster, that the party sort of seems to have, I don't know, kind of forgotten about.